What if I told you that there's a silent destroyer lurking in the shadows, wreaking havoc on your energy levels and overall well-being? Research suggests that unstable blood sugar levels may be the culprit behind your fatigue, weight gain, and long-term health issues. I personally find it alarming that most people don't realize the impact of their daily choices on their blood sugar regulation. Studies link poor blood sugar control to a range of problems, from mood swings to chronic diseases. By making a few simple changes to your daily routine, you may improve your blood sugar regulation and increase your energy levels. But first, you need to know what you're doing wrong. There are 7 common mistakes that people make every day, unknowingly destroying their blood sugar balance. These mistakes may be costing you your health and vitality, and it's time to expose them. By avoiding these mistakes, you may be able to regulate your blood sugar levels naturally without relying on medications like Ozempic. So, let's dive in and explore these 7 mistakes that could be silently destroying your blood sugar regulation. Maintaining stable blood sugar levels is crucial for our overall well-being, and it's not just about managing diabetes. Research suggests that blood sugar swings can affect our energy levels, mood, and even weight management. Studies link unstable blood sugar to increased cravings for unhealthy foods, which can lead to overeating and weight gain. I personally find that when my blood sugar is balanced, I have more energy and can focus better throughout the day. Most people don't realize that blood sugar fluctuations can also impact our mental health, leading to anxiety, depression, and mood swings. Furthermore, research indicates that stable blood sugar levels may improve our overall longevity, reducing the risk of chronic diseases like heart disease and certain types of cancer. From a personal perspective, I've noticed that when I eat a balanced diet and exercise regularly, my blood sugar levels tend to be more stable, and I feel more vibrant and alive. Studies also show that a healthy diet and regular physical activity can help regulate blood sugar levels, even in individuals without diagnosed conditions. As we explore the topic of naturally regulating blood sugar, we'll delve into the importance of lifestyle choices, such as diet, exercise, and stress management. Additionally, getting enough sleep and managing stress levels may also play a role in maintaining stable blood sugar levels, and how these factors can impact our blood sugar levels and overall well-being. We'll also discuss the benefits of incorporating certain foods and nutrients into our diet, as well as the potential risks of neglecting our blood sugar health. By understanding the impact of blood sugar on our overall health and well-being, we can take proactive steps to maintain stable blood sugar levels and reduce our risk of chronic diseases. This, in turn, may improve our quality of life and increase our lifespan. In the following sections, we'll break down the key factors that influence blood sugar levels and provide practical tips for naturally regulating blood sugar so you can take control of your health and well-being.
Or a lake, or even the edge of a mighty and unknown sea. As for the pebbles, were they indeed pebbles, or were they dangerously large rocks with very sharp edges that could slice through the neck of a passing potsherd or smew? By his own account, Blodgett was a mere tot when this incident took place, so how had he learned to distinguish between different types of duck? What sort of pedagogy would teach infants to identify teal before they learn to read and write and count and tell the time and tie their shoelaces? In a duck-strewn domain, of course, such methods may make sense, but from what we know of the land where Blodgett was raised, we can safely say that its duck population was average and unremarkable. The same is true of its ponds and pond-like bodies of water, tallies which were and still are kept by pond-counting persons employed by the local potentate. Make no mistake, pond counting used to be an honourable profession, one to which any citizen possessed of good eyesight, sturdy limbs, and possession of a notched stick could aspire. Blodgett's own mother trained as a pond counter, but a promising career was curtailed when she choked on a pip and came down with Van Bronckhorst's syndrome. Getting back to those pebbles for a moment, what is the truth of Blodgett's claim that he was tossing them into the pond innocently? One does not need to believe in the doctrine of original sin to be aware that oftentimes tiny children carry out acts of the most grievous moral turpitude. And though we may have difficulty grasping exactly what goes on in the brains of a gaggle of potchards, it's surely not beyond our wit to consider that for a duck, the tossing of pebbles into a pond could be seen as an act of brute destruction. The psychology of ducks may not be a subject on the curriculum of the standard infant community hub, but if the tinies are taught to tell the difference between a smew and a merganser, might they not also be given a grounding in the hopes and fears, the joys and terrors of these aquatic birds? Thus, we need also to ask what sort of education the young Blodgett was given if we're to ascertain the truth of his claims. Are we to assume it was skewed in favour of the study of ducks? And if so, what would account for such an idiosyncratic approach? We all know that there are pedagogues with manias, obsessions and tunnel vision. The deranged tutor is a staple of a certain type of fiction. One thinks, for example, of the sinister schoolmaster Weems in the 1907 potboiler The Sinister Schoolmaster Weems by Peveril Greasebox, or the frankly batty provost of the cathedral school in Archibald Glover's long-running serial for the Dotty Capers for Boys comic. Did the tot Blodgett fall into the clutches of such a nutcase, or could it be that his own childhood memories were filtered with his readings of Greasebox and Glub, if indeed he ever did read them? If he spent so much time learning about ducks, when could he have learned to read in the first place? By asking such questions, we begin to pick away at Blodgett's tale, casting doubt on it. And do I need to explain why to do so is of such vital importance? The man is a scoundrel and a rogue, not in a likeable, gap-toothed and mustachioed Terry Thomas manner, but in a way far more damaging to our national fabric. Remember that Blodgett has tried his utmost to appear on flags and postage stamps and even on coinage. He would have us believe he's a model of probity. He likes to be seen on horseback at parades wearing a helmet with feathers. The airbags in certain makes of car bear his imprimatur, and most recently he's had no fewer than 5 different soups named after him. These power-crazed shenanigans have to be curbed, for if Blodgett ever gets a toehold on power, I fear for the future of our country's ducks. He's a spiteful man. Already it seems we're in danger of losing our bees. Let us make sure we keep our ducks. In addition to abominable, sulphurous and futile, another phrase that I used in a story requires comment. In a piece entitled Hunched Among the Shimmerings, which I read 2 weeks ago, I think, I mentioned an industrial funnel manufacturing compound. And I received a letter from R, which said, I wonder if Mr. Key would be kind enough briefly to clarify about the industrial funnel manufacturing compound. Is this a manufacturing compound where industrial funnels are brought into being, or is it rather an industrial manufacturing compound whose output happens to be funnels? Lest I seem to be splitting hairs, I should perhaps add that the former instance might well be a case of 2 amiable widows occasionally meeting in, let's suppose, a disused pig pen or similar compound, where they desultorily pop a few more rivets into their long lives' work, a single immense funnel of statuesque and sturdy conception. Whereas the might imply a colossal foundry or other such satanic installation which churns out in their tens of thousands minute funnels of such a definitively non-industrial calibre that they buckle or actually wither to dust under the mere weight of the potential customer's scrutiny. And R is quite right to draw attention to the ambiguity, and so I'm happy to clarify that the industrial funnel manufacturing compound to which I referred was indeed a disused pig pen wherein two widows popped rivets into a single immense funnel. I'm glad we've cleared that one up. Means we can move on now to the next piece, which is called A Man of Parts. He was a man of parts. He was a slobbering and syphilitic whoremonger who could yet charm the birds from the sky, often when leaning against a mantelpiece at a swish cocktail party. Like Eric Satie, he liked to eat sausages in camphor. His neck movements were sometimes like those of a vulture, and sometimes like those of the sadly extinct giant short-faced bear. When out and about on his so-called patrols, he usually wore a crushed crimpling cravat and a superabundance of brazen jet cufflinks, each one of which he polished vigorously with swarfiga. The distribution of so many unnecessary cufflinks about his person was a wonder to behold, and was regularly remarked upon by fashion mavens, but never copied. When he wore a hat, he wore it with a chain, linking it to a sturdy ring bolted to the back of his neck, and he wore it with éclat. He sucked on spangles of many flavours. Slipping out of a den of vice through a side door, slinking with surprising elegance along a night alley thick with the leavings of debauchery, he whistled "Oh Danny Boy," attracting the attention of police officers. Threatened with truncheons and prosecution, he turned upon those who would do him harm a basilisk stare and faced them down, magnificent in his imperiousness. His slobberings increased as he grew older, and he collected them when he could into a tin spittle basin and left it out on his porch at night, where rainfall diluted the slobberings and the morning dew diluted them further, and during his morning patrol he poured them into a pond. You could cut yourself on the creases in his trousers, they were so well pressed. He ironed them with a vintage Pastewick steam iron. Like Georges Clemenceau, he ate gruel for breakfast. When taking refuge in thickets of shrubbery, he passed the time by fomenting wild schemes in his brain. The skin on his ears had a patina of verdigris, as if it were copper or bronze, likewise the skin in the area of one of his collarbones. A man of parts. Imagine him at 90, in a dinghy, somewhere out on the cold and roaring sea, alone, without oar or compass or radio set, or his beloved sausages in camphor, his tin flask of Courvoisier almost empty. Even here, long-tailed vermin are scuttling through his mind like the sewer it is. His slobbering is unabated. Yet 2 days later, he's to be found sprawled in a deck chair upon a golden beach, his still glorious bouffant shiny with hair oil, the bolt in the back of his neck freshly greased, and dangling from the ring and the chain a Panama hat, like the one favoured by Sydney Greenstreet. And imagine him now, aged just 10, at a crossroads in desolate terrain, a big black crow perched on the signpost. Whither shall he wander, this puny child? I'm going to read something else to you now that's come my way. If you're a keen traveller with an interest in gravy, you'd already be aware that there are two recommended forms of transport to suit your palate, the gravy boat and the gravy train. Some years ago it was announced that a cheap and safe gravy booster jetpack was being developed, but alas, funding for the project was fumbled, as is so often the case, and the company behind the scheme collapsed amid bitterness and gore, like something from the Book of Lamentations. There the story might have ended. But according to a fascinating documentary due to be broadcast next week on the soup, sauce and gravy-focused online channel Slops TV, one of the key figures involved is still working away at the idea from a potting shed on an allotment in a dismal little town somewhere in the back of Beyond. Hooting Yard is always keen to salute inventors, be they cranks or visionaries. So I managed to obtain a transcript of part of the programme, and that's what I'd like to read to you now. It's rather cramped in this potting shed on an allotment in the little town somewhere in the back of Beyond, and there's very little light, so you probably won't be able to see much apart from oppressive gloom. Also, we're having a few problems with the camera, so the gloom will be not just oppressive but juddery. I've just sent a runner back to the studio to see if we can get a repair person or a replacement camera, but I'm not holding my breath. I was holding my breath a few minutes ago, however, because the man I've come here to see released some valves and the potting shed was filled with fumes, which luckily have dispersed. Apparently, the fumes were so toxic they could fell a field of cows in 8 seconds flat from a huge distance, so I consider myself pretty lucky I'm still talking to you. So, who is he, this man squashed into a cramped potting shed on an allotment in a dismal little town somewhere in the back of Beyond, releasing valves that let toxic fumes escape, endangering himself and me and Prudence the camera woman, not to mention thousands of cows for miles around? Well, he won't tell me his name and he won't speak. He wants to remain anonymous because of the top secret nature of what he's up to, and he won't speak because he says he's too busy resealing the valves and mucking about with all sorts of other gubbins. Now, you might think that faced with an uncooperative subject and a faulty camera, we would just pack up and go home. But here at Slops TV, we don't know the meaning of failure. That's why we've become the top soup, sauce and gravy-focused online channel on the web. We press ahead with the big stories where the faint of heart and the weak-minded would falter. As it says in our mission statement, we're, quote, not just about soup and sauce and gravy, we're about the burning ambition and uncontrollable frenzy of a hothead who simply doesn't understand the word no. Even Prudence had to sign up to that one, and she's a Quaker, or a Mennonite, one of those quietist sects, and a damn fine camera woman, if I may say so. See, now she's managed to find a sliver of light coming in through a